nice piece of Norfolk flint that we hope to extract a tree felling axe from. What we've got here is we've got a piece of flint which is surrounded in its cortex, which appears on the surface of things to be quite like chalk. It's a little bit of a chalk nucleus that we can see within it. We're going to break it open and see what we encounter. On the first note, we might not fully understand what's going to be going on because it's 100 million years old, and it can be fraught with many complications such as thermal flaws, maybe oceanic debris. So my tool of choice is going to be a quartzite hammerstone. Quite a big one because this is so big in the first place, and the trickiest part is finding a place to set off and get into it. So I'm going to use this keel bit that sticks out here and just tap that through. Because that's nice and black and clear, it's showing us that we've got quite a nice form of silica. So in the first place the material is good, but what we don't know is what other hazards is going to be going on inside it. A finish on a piece of flint like that is perfect. What you can see is that from the point of impact we've been able to cast an uninterrupted flake right out to the proximity in each direction. So that shows us that in this portion of the stone we've got really great material to work with. So that raises our chances. The axe could be taken from here, but we'll go a bit further into this and see what else we uncover. Okay, that's broken in an unplanned way, but that's okay. So we'll drop that bit down for another job, and we'll explore the possibilities of getting our axe from this piece here. By removing them other sections, although we haven't assisted our manufacture of the axe itself, this will be a lot more manageable now with its size. It's a good flake, that one. So that really has peeled right through there. So, reference to getting your axe, that means that we've thinned down the content somewhat. So again, that could be used for making an axe, but we'll still persevere on with this. Watch all the little bits of debris because they're sharp and quite deadly, and you can quite happily drive one into your leg. And each time you swipe the flint, it's quite, as you can see there, quite deadly things if they're handled badly. Looking at this surface now, we have a high spot running through the middle and bevel away to the edge of the stone. The proform of that is kind of how we want to keep things. So that side is looking well. On this side we've got a much steeper incline to the middle. So what I'd really like to see is a big flake cast right the way through this to take the whole top of the stone off. So I'll set the situation up from this far end. It's a slight curve being created. I'll take a partial advantage of that, which is allowing me to come round the back of the stone to get dead in line with this crest. Just need to remove some of that cortex. The planning of a removal is just as important as the removal itself, because if you don't get the angle and the detail of the surface that you're going to hit right, then you quite clearly can't expect yourself to remove what you're intending. So this angle falls in at about 70 degrees to the surface that's going to be left behind after the flake's removed. There we go, that was a first class removal, almost ran the full length and totally wiped out that crest. So it's raised the stakes of us getting an axe from this. You can see at the end of the flake the journey of the shockwave started to misbehave a little bit and shake, trying to find an exit plan for itself, as in the main section of where the majority of the energy was quite happily to swim in a straight line. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and preserve the circumference of the tool that we're making while taking long flakes over the surface. So our toolkit's going to change a little bit now. Firstly, the stone that's going to be used to tilt and create the platforms is somewhat smaller, and as it's been used it's becoming quite granular, which will help me to abrade the edges. And what that's going to be used in conjunction with is a big billet of deer antler with coronet face, which was the part that attached to the deer's head, being used as the hammer surface itself. So now what we'll do is we'll make individual plans to systematically remove all the lumps. This is the lump I'm planning to remove, so while I'm looking at that lump, I've prepared the edge of the stone just here with this. Finish by brushing that edge with the stone to consolidate and strengthen this, which now we know is a platform. That's when the soft hammer is offered to that place and brought back in with regards to removing that. As you can see, they swim out, extracting all the high spots to every proximity of the point where it's launched from. And then we start the process of evaluating again. So after every evaluated strike you have to go through the process of a new plan. So the next plan is this flake here, which is a big scope of this top, which I'm going to take from this corner. What we've just just encountered there is a failed platform. So the platform wasn't strong enough, so we've collapsed the point of entry. If we continue to try and hit this area, what we're going to do is we're going to build more stack and more problem into that place. So it's one hit, problem has been revealed, so we have to move away from there and try and resolve the problem from somewhere else. So I'm going to try from here instead. It's quite useful to see if your planning is sloppy or your platform production is sloppy, what you get back is an unsatisfactory return. And in the early years of napping, that can be quite frustrating when you know that what you want is an axe without all them lumps and crushes and bits and pieces laying about. That sounded cleaner. It had a nice rich reach which has come out and mildly invaded this point here, and it hasn't left any problems behind itself. That one's come out and taken a bit more of it. So although we made a mistake, if we carry on playing well, then we'll carry on napping well, we'll hopefully get back in charge of that end of the stone. As we can see around here now, we've got something which looks sort of conchoidal, like the top of a mountain. Soft round edges. That's a cone of percussion that would have been part of the creation of the flake, and that area looks very disorganised, so it's a really difficult place to actually consider how you're going to actually approach and take the removals from. So better than getting complicated and getting caught up in there, we'll bring a much easier scenario to it from a place we can understand. So if we consider this area here that's fairly flat as our entrance point, we can create a platform here which is done by tilting the rock a little bit, taking nice short flakes. Just going to tilt this edge. Turn the flint over. I'm not happy with that platform yet, there's too many random elements going on. So we'll tidy that up a bit more. Now that's gone straight across the top of that area that we were talking about. It's begun to invade it. What we're also noticing at this point is, because we've successfully generated some flakes either side, the actual edge of the tool is laying parallel to the centre of the whole body and is starting to become unified, which is basically what we're trying to take on board. And also we can establish that this is probably the tail of the axe, this is going to be the chopping end of the axe, and these are going to be the two sides. So at this point we can orientate our way around, which is quite nice. You have to accept when you're flint napping that at any given point in time things could go wrong and it could just break in half, and all flint nappers will have suffered with that. And best just getting over it as quick as you can and moving on to the next bit, a bit like falling off a bike. Perseverance one day will reward you with a nice flint axe. as you can see, some of the rewards from even making the tool in terms of flakes quite worthy of considering for secondary tool culture. This is quite, if you manage to get to this stage quite as well as this, it's quite good, because we've actually still got a lot of scale to our advantage, and actually too much if anything. So it means that we can kind of really decide how thick this axe is going to be, and the thickness is all going to be governed by how deep we lean that flake back. So what we can do is we can bring that forward if we want a nice thick bodied axe for short flakes. If we want something much thinner, then we just lean it back and we'll drive hard flakes through. And for this particular axe, I've found myself wanting to give it a fairly heavy body, so I'm going about midpoint between the two examples. And the flake just crosses the centre margin, so it's still thinning, but it's not digging too deep. Few considerations to be thought of. Right in the middle of the rock here we have some parallel falling fractures. They're a little bit concerning because they're actually travelling down into the rock, and that could actually mean that we lose this end section. It doesn't literally mean that we haven't got an axe, but what I would like to do at this point is to try to travel round here and persuade any flakes on the top of that down to see if what we've got doesn't continue to travel down and we get some constancy at the back. And you see here what we've got also. We've got a little hollow crystal basin sitting there. So basically what we've got is we've got a hollowed out echinoid or some kind of sea urchin living in there. Really brings home the fact that the natural slowly getting down to the basin of that, which isn't too bad. We lost a little tiny bit of length, but we can live with that. Now looking through this is the highest spot, so I figure that that's the next point we should try and extract. If you look at it, orientate yourself across it, this would be the way to go at it. So I'm going to go up and through that from this end. So now we've got that edge, which is beveled round and unified. We're creating our new platform to cast a second set of flakes throughout the entire length on the opposite side. So we're just drawing this stone along this edge in an oblique fashion, so it doesn't cause any internal damage to the surface just under here. Then we rotate the flake. Start at one end, one flake, two flakes, 3, 4, 5, and that's kept things beveled and balanced throughout the whole axe. And then through exactly the same process, come back again. One of the next considerations after the axe has been created is the fact that this is going to be put into a socket of wood so that it can actually be used. So the smoother the surfaces become, and the ovation of this transition across the surface remains, the easier it's going to be to actually haft as well. So you'll find that from the hafting perspective, you'll thank yourself to do a good job on the surface of the stone as you go. This style of axe we recognise as a common trait of Neolithic stone culture, and interestingly enough, it might take half an hour to make the axe, which will be a perfectly serviceable item, but they commonly went on to polish them by rubbing them against the sandstone block, and that process in itself can take quite literally 100 hours. And the polishing, what it will do is it will completely remove all of the scarring on the surface. It will make the front edge completely smooth and less likely to suffer from secondary breaks in use. But the time scale to do that, you're looking at about 100 hours of grinding. So it must have been regarded as quite a precious item when it was finished. Quite nice to hold a polished axe and reflect upon the person who did the polishing, because you're looking at something 4,000 years old and someone's put a serious investment into it, and it would have been just one person being quite close, having quite a close relationship with that stone to do that. And now what we're trying to do here is we're trying to form this cutting edge. And this cutting edge, it's got to be said, it's going to be the most important part of the tool. So all of the flakes that fall away, they need to fall away in such a way that the cutting edge is superior to the wood that it's actually cutting, and it's got to be able to do it. So that needs carefully created. Again, still with the same technique, but much consideration for the flake path, so that we've got no stumbling points behind the cutting edge. be easy to consider to yourself that when I'm striking this, that pieces of flint are being removed, so you could ask yourself, well, why, when you strike the tree that you're trying to fell, doesn't it do exactly the same thing? Well, the simple answer to that is the fact that the angle that I'm striking this is across the blade, so I'm making the blade vulnerable. But when the actual tool is being used properly, it's going to be hitting dead straight on, so it won't be anywhere near as vulnerable as it is while it's in production. I found that in use, I've had axes that have lasted me a good 30 trees. You know, you could fell at least 30 trees with one, and you don't even have to think about resharpening it. It suffers no damage at all, which is an amazing statement. That's until you give it one duff blow, and then you obviously destroy it. So they are things that need to be used with a level of skill. And to all intents and purposes, we can't improve that any further through the knapping process. It could be taken on to grinding. So Flintstone and mankind certainly brought us up a level or two in terms of our existence on the face of planet Earth. Thanks for watching.